Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the TFT Perspective. Viewers, Indian Northeast is burning. We have explosive revelations now coming from the Mizoram Chief Minister. In September, in the first week of September, he visited US in Maryland as well as in Indianapolis, in which he held a speech, and the content of the speech says a very different story when it comes to India. The revelations we are about to make is about an independent Christian state inside India. I would quote the some specifics of the speech myself so you can build up a perception concerning that. So he said that while a country may have borders, a true nation transcends such limitations. We have been unjustly divided, forced to exist under three different governments in three different countries, and this is something we can never accept. So, Mr. Lalduhoma, who is not, aligned with the Congress, not aligned with the BJP, he has his own separate agenda. It's very much giving a picture of an independent Christian state inside India. In fact, this speech took place in the first week of September. He held two speeches in which he had different opinions concerning the overall situation of Christian communities in the Northeast, especially the hill tribes, in which predominantly it's made up of cookies, then Chin tribes, then cookie-zo tribes, and so many others. So, with reference to that, after 2 months, the entire Indian media came up with storm and started bashing the Mizoram Chief Minister, and programs are being held that all of this is going to build up further insurgency in the region. What did he mean by that? And the big question lies is why was Indian media or their external affairs silent on this speech that was made inside the US? We have with us Mr. Vakar K. Karvi to discuss this. So last time things unfolded in Manipur. Now we are witnessing things shaping up with Mizoram. I mean, it's just like saying that the prime minister has come up with a different thing and is supporting the other side of the story.
Yeah, I think it's very, very critical. We had projected that Indian Northeast is going to see further instability, and there are reasons we had explained. One is, of course, their own, fault lines. In Manipur, we have Hindus fighting the Kuki Christians, and recently we had some killings of the Kukis also. And there is a clear division. It almost appears that there are two states. There is a Kuki state, and then there is a mighty state, and definitely we'll discuss how India landed up here. Now, if you look at the northeast, and we did discuss Manipur and Mizoram I would say, Christian majority states in which Mizoram is almost 87% Christian, and in case of Manipur, it's almost 50-50, but it's a huge majority of Christians. And there's also definitely role played by the church right from 19th century. We had American missionaries doing some job, and now you find a lot of Christians. And then there is a civil war going on in Myanmar. Initially, India was very happy that probably now there's going to be
Yeah,
breakup
a
of.
lot of Chin people used to come inside Mizoram. All was welcomed at that
Well,
time.
and despite that, some of the Indian three stars met Mizoram Chief Minister that you should stop it or have biometrics. Then he refused. I think 40,000 cookie chins from Myanmar have already migrated into. And then there is I think the borders are quite open so they can move around. There is an arrangement also, which I think now people are getting to know. Strange thing is that this speech happened 2 months back, first week of September, and now we are discussing it in middle of
In fact, in the first
November.
speech he held in 2nd September in Maryland, he suggested that all these communities must be united under the Indian flag. Then it was very much welcomed on the social media by your typical Bhakt. But on 4th September, he completely changed that statement and he said that we are not going to accept these false borders. Uh, this community, which transcends borders, basically, we are going to ensure that there is going to be a separate entity or a separate state for Christian protection and Christian tribes inside India, Bangladesh, and Myanmar.
And that's why I think Arnab Goswami was shouting. Few days back he had a program, and there were professors from Mizoram also invited. He didn't let them talk. It was just one-sided debate. They're trying to bash. Even I think Arnab Goswami went on to say that Chief Minister should be sacked. So just look at one anchor asking. So this is the kind of, but if you look at the history, I will just read a paragraph that now people are coming to know what is, let's say, Zoram or Zogam, or who are Zo people. It says that more than 100 years before the birth of the modern state, there were already people willing to die for the concept of Zoram or Zogam, land of Zo. And if you look at geographically, it's very interesting that uh, uh, basically if you start from the north, I'm talking of basically now Kuki-zo Chin people, or basically these are the hill tribes, and somehow different names given in different states or regions. So if you start from the north, the Naga Hills, from foothills you start, Kukis people. Then you come to the Indian state of Manipur, again hills, and Mizoram is very, very mountainous. Some of the, I think, mountains are above 8,000 feet, so it's quite mountainous. And they do, very interesting cultivations, the Jhum cultivation systems. They don't destroy the environment. They're very, it is 87% literacy rate, very educated people. And then you have a large swath of Chin state within Myanmar, which is even larger than these both states. So all combined, so from the, I would say, Irrawaddy River up to, let's say, Manipur, and north-south Nagaland up to Bay of Bengal. So huge area. So it does qualify to become a separate country. Then we look at the conspiracy theory. When Sheikh Hasina was ousted,
she met a white man.
Yeah, so she mentioned before that she met a white man. She didn't mention came from UK or United States or Canada, and he offered her. Now this was before the elections. That she'll be allowed to sail through, but she should allow this such and such, and some talk of bases in St. Martin Island, something like that. So that, I think, conspiracy theory already exists. And now we have Chief Minister of Mizoram, Mr. Lalduhoma, going to United States and addressing a large, I would say, community of these tribal people who are diaspora from, I think, Myanmar and India. And this is again done in, I would say, a religious gathering also. And there he talks of a separate state which is inseparable. And he even said, if you can't fence. So if you link that, and that's what the Indian media is doing, that this is, on one side we have Trump. They were initially banking on Kamala Didi, and now we have Trump, and they are very happy that some of the Indian region, leaders have been given certain important assignments. I think they failed in getting the CIA seat, director of CIA, but I think Vivek Ramaswamy has been given a deputy position for the new, let's say, the Dodge or the Department of Commerce Efficiency under Elon Musk. So, by and large, I think why this news remain hidden, this is also important.
That's one of the biggest questions. I mean, for 2 months, no, response from the External Affairs Ministry, and then no response even on the Indian national media or even their private channels. Usually, it's 1 hour response by them, but 2 months later, they came to know that there was a speech held by their own chief minister inside US, and he talked about this.
Yeah, I think there's a mechanism. In case there is a chief minister who has to make a formal speech, the speeches are vetted by the Ministry of External Affairs, mind you. Or at least the draft is shared what he's going to talk about. Because ultimately you are representing India, irrespective of whether it's a culture event. So now the chief minister's, I think, spokesperson was also saying, Mr. Lalduhoma, that why Ministry of External Affairs was sleeping, and why now you're trying to make, basically a big issue out of it. But I think things are not, I would say, stable in Indian Northeast. What India was basically looking at, breakup of Myanmar, and there are, I have huge articles, research, and there are websites who were basically, and they were very happy when they started coming that, okay, now we'll have, expansion of India into Myanmar. So Myanmar civil war is still, going on. We don't know what happens to junta. There are Chinese interests, there are American interests, there is, Three Brothers Alliance, so who actually finally wins. But now I think the albatross is in the neck of Indian Home Ministry and Mr. Modi, and this is a huge albatross, which basically we are looking at fragmentation of Indian Northeast. And there also been, Manipur is already burning. We've seen what happened for last 1 year. Mr. Modi, last 1.5 years now, Mr. Modi has never visited there, not even passed a, I would say, formal comment. So I think therefore yesterday Mr. Modi came up and hinted at that there are forces which are trying to divide the nation, based on let's say language, ethnicity, and religion. He
But
mentioned
talking
for
about forces that are dividing the nation, didn't Amit Shah himself made a private militia inside Manipur which guards a particular community? Isn't that the same thing what Mr. Modi is saying, forces that divide the nation?
yeah. I think we are talking of Arambai Tangol.
Yes, yes.
Now, again, in Pakistan, very few people may be knowing about it, and this is very interesting. How Indian, let's say, especially since the time the RSS has come into power in 2014, they are trying to divide communities, and basically it's for vote bank or maybe Hindutva agenda. Northeast is very different. Northeast people mostly are, they are not vegetarian, so they I think eat beef, and long time back they used to actually kill people, and they were carnivores also. Some of them were, let's say, who consume
Cannibals.
cannibals. Sorry. So I think there was a plan between Amit Shah and Mr. Biren Singh, who is the
Chief Minister of
Chief
Manipur.
Minister of Manipur. Since cookies live in the hills, and mighty Hindus generally live in the Imphal Valley, and by and large they had more businesses, more commerce, and agriculture. The hill tribes were most like let's say dependent on hunting or living like tribes. So they knew that as far as the martial status is concerned, cookies had an upper hand. So they came up with this idea of Arambai Tengol. And if you look at what happened in Manipur, Arambai Tengol was basically a militia of youth from Mighties. They were armed by the state because you remember, there were reports of loot and plunder of a lot of armories of police and CPRF and maybe BSF. There's a huge, presence of Indian military. They would come, ransack, take out weapons, and they report of 15,000 small arms were taken out, explosives taken out, rocket launchers, and police and CPRF couldn't do anything. So mainly this landed up with Arambai Tengol. And then they came up with a very strange idea that this is a centuries-old group, and they had a very different culture, and mainly it's basically they were trying to now link at there. The Hindus also had a master status in the hills. So, and Arambai Tengol was an armed, and they have been used against very ruthlessly. If I think we were discussing before that 3 days back there was a killing of Mighties cookies.
Cookies, yeah.
This happened in one of the districts where they were actually protecting. As I mentioned, that now Manipur is almost like two countries. So there is talk of a border. You cannot cross the border, and you cannot go across. And there's a huge doing. There's fighting. And remember, there were drone warfare also,
Yeah.
and then there was a blame that was basically cookies coming from Myanmar who are doing it. So 11 young guys, were killed, and I'll just read some of the social media basically messages which are coming on Facebook from the cookies. And it's not only Manipur but also the Mizo cookies, that's the Zo people. They mentioned that today we gather with heavy hearts and deep gratitude to honor 11 courageous souls, our beloved martyrs who gave their lives so we may stand together in strength and unity. They were more than heroes for us. They were brothers, sons, friends, and protectors bound by love for our land and our people. And there was a strong response from Mizo community also. As I mentioned that, let's say in Mizoram, you can call them Zo, hill tribe. In Manipur, Manipur mostly cookies and chins. Basically, it's the hill people, and then maybe. So now they're talking of basically cookie-zo chin, and that's where Chief Minister of Mizoram pointed out that we have suffered a lot, and he feels to be, I think, quite frustrated. But there is a huge support from Mizoram for the Chief Minister. If you look at social media, they're saying we're standing with our Chief Minister. Even during, I think, Arnab Goswami's discourse with some of the professors from Mizoram.
Yeah, all of them seem to be very much connected with their chief minister, and they were supporting his idea that this is not exactly what he meant. He talked about unity of the people, and while Mr. Arnab was doing what he mostly does.
Yeah, but I think there is, if you look at the conspiracy theory of the Christian state, there is some merit in it. And why US would, or let's say Britain would like to have a Christian state, there's also a history of that. Even before partition, there was a thought. And this was mentioned by, I think, one of the journalists, a Bhakt in in Arnab Goswami's program that, a long time back before partition, there was a concept that we'll retain this colony and this will be a Christian colony serving the British Raj. So it means that probably there is some linkage, maybe some truth, but I think it was all the mess was created by Amit Shah, the famous Chanakya, who tries to do funny things, and then Mr. Modi has to wrap it up. Creation of Aram by Bengal, politically dividing people, arming them, and now I think they are going to reap the harvest. So let's see, how it figures out. But unfortunately, now I feel that other than Mizoram, other than Manipur, Mizoram is also going to start burning. But there is a sense of unity, and we'll see how it goes ahead.
Yeah, last question. You mentioned that there is a conspiracy when it comes to a Christian state being formed here. Most of the times people do blame the US that they usually do such kind of things, change of government or defractionization of societies or creating further states inside the region for their own benefits. In a strategic point of view, would you consider that a strong India would be beneficial for the United States at this time in order to, engage with the Chinese, or a fractured India?
What the Indian, I think, opinion makers, defense analysts are reading. I think we should also throw light on that. One is that India was propped up even before Obama. So it started from the late 90s, and then President Obama came up with the idea of Asia pivot. And then we had the Quad, famous by the now late Japanese Prime Minister of Asian, Shinzo Abe's famous democracy, Asian democracy diamond or something like that. And then came the Quad, which had US, you had Australia, Japan, and India. And India was supposed to not only look after the Western interests in the Indo-Pacific, but also give a tough time to China on the LAC. But now we have seen, probably for there's a rapprochement between India and China, and if Trump wants India. And people are saying, even I think if you look at K. Subramanian statement or his, let's say, discussion on the media, he's saying that they're going to very clearly ask, choose your side. We can't afford, So it means that in any case, whether they were Democrats or now Trump, they have now found that India is a paper tiger. So probably they would like to create some problems. They are linking, and because I think in Bangladeshi, I would say revolution was indigenous because the people were fed up with Sheikh Hasina. But if you look at what Sheikh Hasina mentioned, it means that there was some talk of the state coming up. So it means that US would also like to weaken India, at least pressurize it to, maybe since they are not playing at their tune. And let's see how India responds. In terms of they call that we have autonomy, and we look at Mr. Jaishankar's, shenanigans and the statements, the way he conducts himself. They want to, milk the West also, and Chinese also, and the Russians also. It doesn't work like that. So I'm sure interesting times ahead, and let's see how things move in Mizoram and Indian Northeast.
Yeah, let's see how things unfold. Let's see. Apparently, the Mizoram Chief Minister is also saying that he's going to bring up lawsuits against the Indian media sources. We are going to give you updates concerning that. But thanks for watching us. Please do leave a like and subscribe our channel. Bye-bye.